Hi, this is Brett from pm2consulting.com. This short video walks you through how we're suggesting you can use monday.com to report your OKRs within the Bell Marketing Group. So I'm going to quickly narrate you through what your OKRs could look like in monday.com. Now, the screen we're looking at, I've created some fictitious objectives and key results for an area, CS and IS strategic pricing. And you can see that they've got 4 objectives. And if I take a look at each objective, I'll just open this one up. I've set up a number of columns. So the objective has below it the key results. We have the ability to put in the priority of that particular key result. And the options are high priority, medium, low, or no priority. And that way we can differentiate between the more important key results and the other informative ones. We'll put in our target if it's a grow the business or manage the business key result, or the milestone if it's a transform the business. And we'll put those in as what we expect to achieve by the end of the quarter. So it'd be the end of quarter milestone, not end of project, or the end of quarter target performance. Eventually, you'll put in the actual performance. And again, it will be a smart indicator if it's a grow or manage the business objective, or percentage complete of the milestone for a transform the business. The next column is progress. Progress is the actual performance calculated by the numbers. So for example, in this first one, we said our target was 93% retention rate. We're at 90% right now. And so 90 versus 93, that's yellow for caution. Now the options here are dark green for ahead of target, light green for on target, yellow or amber for caution, red for at risk, and gray for no data. So based on the numbers, you'll put in your mathematical assessment. But the important one is this, the end of quarter assessment. The end of quarter is your professional opinion on your expectation about being able to meet the end of quarter target based on everything you know. And the options there are blue, the bell blue for I've actually completed it, green for on track, yellow for it needs focus, and red for you're asking for some support. And of course, gray is not assessed. So for example, mathematically, we're at caution for this one, but the owner said we're on track, don't worry about it. Whatever state we're at, 90%, is where we're expected to be right now, and it's not a problem. Or in this case, mathematically we're ahead, but they've put up a yellow because they know something's about to happen that's going to jeopardize that performance. So this assessment's super important because the numbers never tell us the whole story. Now, what you can also do is put in who the owner is of that objective or key result, and finally the contributors. So those are the columns. What we've also done is I've added in a row with the objective name as the first one. And the reason for that is that allows us to put in an assessment for the overall objective, not just the key results, and also will allow you to put in a commentary. So I'll open up the second objective so you can see what I mean. So in this objective, we have our results. And in this particular case, we've got a high importance key result that we're not performing well on, requires support. And even though we're complete one and on track on the other, because this is the highest importance, I've decided, again, in this fictitious data, to put it in as overall requires support, and therefore have written an assessment. And I'll just click on that and a window will open. And I've done a simple assessment, what, so what, now what, which explains to the reader why it is, in this particular case, I've triggered it to be red, and it requires some attention. In this way, the rest of the team can see what your concern is and rally around to offer support. Now, I'd like you to add commentary in anywhere where you think it needs an explanation. So, for example, in this case where it was green, but I indicated yellow, maybe you want to explain what that thinking is. Or it's yellow and you decided to put it on track. Again, you might want to explain why it is like that. What I've also done is once I've determined the overall score for the objective, I go over and change the font color on the title so that I can indicate to the team that this one is at a red state, and it causes all of these buttons to also turn red, which is interesting because it helps you see overall how this team is performing. So again, this is just a quick overview of how I see building out an OKR dashboard in Monday. The rest of this presentation, I'll go through everything I just showed you in a lot more detail to explain how I set it up to help you set up your Monday in the same format. Now that you've seen the final point, let's walk through the steps. So first off, the setup that we recommend that we go through to get that configuration that I showed you is as follows. What you need to do is create the following columns. One is priority, and the priority definition is that I would put under the information button is as follows. Now, accompanying this will be the PowerPoint deck, so you can just grab this text and paste it in. For target milestone, the target is the performance level, right? A specific number. If it is a grow or manage the business objective. If it's a transform the business objective, it's going to be the final milestone that you need to achieve this quarter that we're reporting on. So it's not the end of the project, which could be 2 or 3 quarters away or a year or 2 away, but what do we hope to get done this quarter? The actual percentage, the definition there is actual performance number. Or if it's, again, a transformational project, the percent of progress you've made towards that milestone. So the milestone might be, complete the design, and you're 50% of the way to have completed the design. Progress, the definition for progress is the objective's actual performance score based on the data as of the reporting period. So literally, it's actual performance divided by target to give you eventually a red, yellow, green color. Whereas the end of quarter assessment is the tricky one. And you can read the words, but basically we're looking for your professional opinion about the status of this objective. Really, the key thing here is raising a yellow flag to say it's off target, but you can solve it, or raising a red flag to say you need some support in achieving this objective. Then finally, we want you to be able to put in who the owner of that objective or that key result is, and the contributors that are going to contribute to that objective. And sometimes within Bell, these are people that you've historically called your dependents, or where you have dependencies. So that's what you do to create the framework. Now, to input your OKRs, we're going to end up with a structure that looks a bit like this, and I'll just walk you through it. So to begin with, what we want to do is create your space, for your particular team, and invite your team members into the space. Then what we're going to do is use this area to create each of your objectives. So if you hit this drop down, you have the choice of groups, and we're going to use that for your objective. So in this case, the objective we've put in is improve the win rate. And I've also put in who's accountable for it, in this case, Jay-Z. You don't need to do that, but it just helps out a bit. Ultimately, this name will also appear over here. Then what your priority is for that objective. So you can prioritize the objective and later on the specific key results. And then we're going to either put in your SMART target, if it's a grow or manage the business objective, or transform, of course, if it's a milestone, if it's a transform objective. Ultimately, you'll be entering your actual performance. And then here, you're going to choose from the drop-down the color of the performance as you calculate from target versus actual. EOQ, of course, is your assessment of where we are. And then there's a space to put in who the objective owner is and who the contributors are that will ultimately help you achieve success. And they may be from within your department or outside. So that's a quick flyby. In more detail, same story. So a new group, your objective. And what we're suggesting, again, is keep it nice and simple. I want you to number your objectives. It will get confusing otherwise, and I'll illustrate that in a bit. And then what I'd like you to do is, in the space below it, put in the same objective name, and just to make it clear, just put it in caps so we don't confuse it. And we need to do this so that later on we can prioritize it, and we can add in commentary and status on the overall objective, which you can't do on this title line. So we're doing a bit of a tweak here. And then put in the owner for the objective and any contributors for the objective. So that gets the objective set up. Now we need to go on to setting up each of the key results. So for each key result, again, I want you to number it. So in this case, it is objective 1, and this is the first key result, so that would be 1.1. And then what the specific measurable is. We don't put in the target, just what is the piece of data we're looking for. So in this case, it's the CS win rate, which is retention. And that's, we want to be succinct. Over in the rest of it, we get to say what the targets are. So I don't need to say it here and then show it again over here. Now, you have the opportunity of rating how important that key result is here, high, medium, or low. And the reason we suggest you might want to do that is sometimes we found that you might have chosen 3 key results, but one of them is super important, and the other 2 are, good to know and informational, but that one is the critical one. And this helps a reader with that knowledge that you have. Now, you'll enter in your committed target. This is, the number that you've told everyone you're going to go achieve. And it's the number that you're going to achieve by this quarter. So by the end of the year, we might be at, say, 97% retention rate, but this quarter is just 93. If it's a transform objective, you're going to put in the milestone that you hope to achieve at the end of the quarter. So there could be 3 or 4 milestones during the quarter, but what's the furthest one you help to achieve? And we want to put that in so people know what you're aiming towards. And then again, put in who the owner is of that key result, which may be different than the owner of the objective, and then the contributors and dependencies. So that helps you create the key results, and you'll end up with something that looks like this. So in this case, we've got the objective, we've got 3 key results, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and also how important these key results are in determining our overall success of the objective. And I can see, the team, the cross-functional nature of the team. Now, once I've built this out for my 4 objectives, you'll end up with a sheet like this. Now, this is kind of cool because now your entire team can look at this and see what it is they need to work on and how their success is being measured. So this helps us make sure that we're doing the right things. So now how do we report performance? And you've seen bits of this already, but let's sort of drill into it. What you'll do in this instance is key in your actual performance level. So in this case, the target was 93. We're actually at 90. The next column, you're going to, mathematically calculate how you're doing, right? So dark green means you've exceeded target. Green means you're achieved or achieving target. Yellow means you're slightly behind, and red significantly behind. So in this example, I've triggered it yellow. Now these are made up numbers. And so then I do my assessment. Now the assessment, you've got 4 choices. Blue means you've completed the objective, that bell blue that you use. Green means you will meet target by the end of the quarter. Yellow means you'll be slightly behind target by the end of the quarter. And red means you're going to be probably behind target, and so you need some help right now. You're raising a red flag for assistance. So again, we're trying to forecast based on your experience where we're going. So in this example, the owner's triggered at yellow based on the mathematics, but saying, don't worry about it. We're on track. This is where I expect it to be. And this is important because that as the owner, but anyone else that looks at it is going to not understand that you're still doing okay. Now, I want to go into that detail a bit, the difference between the mathematical score and your assessment. So we'll use an example that's from outside marketing just to keep it sort of simple to understand and not stepping on toes. Again, the 4 colors we have is blue means you've completed. Green means you're ahead or at target. Yellow means you're behind target from where we expect to be, but with focus I can get there. And red means you need some help. You've tried everything you possibly can to achieve this target and you can't solve it. You can't solve it with the resources that you've got. So we need either more resources, more money, more people, or we need to change the target. For both those things, you can't do it yourself. You can't give yourself more money or change the target. So we're raising a red flag to say at the team level, we need to highlight this so we can work together to solve it. So think of, again, a sales example. And let's say we're going to do a product launch in month 2. So what we're expecting is not much sales in month 1, and then month 2 is going to show sort of a rapid growth. So if in month 1, our actual is this blue area, what I would do is calculate it to say, I'm obviously significantly little amount of sales. So that would be red. I haven't made many sales. But I would assess it as green because that's exactly where I expect it to be. So no problems. My team, my leaders don't need to get concerned because it's where we expect it to be. Now let's say the product launch is late for some reason, and so we end up falling short. Again, as we calculate it, maybe we have enough sales that we've gone from the red zone into yellow. And maybe you're going to assess it as yellow at that point because you go, well, I know I'm behind target, but we can get there. You know, with the right focus, we can get there because I know the product's going to get launched a week or 2 late, but once it gets launched, we'll be back on target. And then let's make a happy ending to this story. You know, let's say in month 3, when we see what our actual sales look like, we exceed target. So both the progress is green and the end of quarter assessment is green. So that's why we need 2 separate things, a mathematical progress versus your professional assessment. And without this assessment, we tend to make, unfortunately, bad decisions. Now, instead of a happy ending, let's do a slightly sad ending. Let's say we fall short, mathematically yellow, but you're putting up a red because for whatever reason, you could not possibly have achieved the target. And you want to raise a red flag so that next quarter we resource it more appropriately. So that's score versus progress. So let's take this and apply it back to our Monday instance. So in this case, I've assessed it as being on track. And again, my options are, if I click on it, I can choose complete on track, needs focus, requires support, not assessed. And what I'll do is, because I've marked it as on track, what I'll then do is go and change the color of this heading. So you have the choice, if you just click to the left of choosing what color you want. And I've chosen green because it's on track. And what it does is it changes all of these to also green. So it just gives you a better view, informational. So now if I take a look at a couple of them, this one I've indicated requires support, and therefore change the overall objective to be red. But we're also suggesting that if you have a red, you should add in a piece of commentary to explain why you've made it red or what's happened. Now we're suggesting the commentary can be simple, just 3 sentences. What? So what? Now what? So what happened that caused it to turn red? And don't add in other numbers, explain what's going on. So in my example, let's say the product launch was delayed. That's all I need to do. You know it, but no one else in the organization does. So that little piece of information really does help everyone else who's taking a look. So what? People don't understand the implications of what's gone on. So we'd like you to. So what is the impact of this delay? So in this case, I would say something like, this 2-week delay, if it continues, will mean we'll miss our budget by a significant amount. And then now what? Now what are the recommendations that we should do about it? And that's also important because even if it's red, you may have brilliant recommendations and the team doesn't need to provide any support. You've already got it sorted out. Or maybe your recommendations, other people have good ideas, and it's worth having that in the meeting. So answering what, so what, now what really helps out. So in Monday, if you click on this little comment icon, what happens is a window opens up. And again, this is just a fictitious example, but I've put in my what, so what, now what, so anyone can take a look at this. Now, this allows us to sort of trigger a conversation. People can sort of agree with it. They can put in replies. And eventually, what we end up with is one area that we can look at that gives us a complete picture of performance. I'm not looking at Monday for the numbers. I'm looking at email to see the comments. I'm looking at Teams to see some conversation. It's all in one place. And obviously, eventually, I can scroll through and watch the history of what's gone on. Now, in this example, I said, write a commentary if it's read. But in fact, you should write a commentary anytime you think the team will benefit from knowing what's going on. In other words, there's a lot of stuff that you know that's going on that confuses people outside your team. And if you can explain it here, it makes your life a bunch easier, and it allows them to better support you once they understand what's going on. So by the time it's done, we'll end up with your 4 objectives. They'll all be colored. We'll see what the performance is. Where there's commentary, we'll see what it is. And here's an example where we've got transform the business with milestones put in place. So hopefully that's been informative to you. That's a bit of an outline of how we see using Monday to drive OKRs.